asked me to house sit for them over the summer vacation and look after their cat, I jumped at the chance. Little did I know what was just around the corner. I'm 17 years old, and honestly, I'm just sick of having to share my space so much. I have 3 little brothers, and they are always getting in the way. Sometimes having a big family can be a good thing, but the older I get, the more I crave my own space. So when my neighbors asked me to look after their house for them over the summer vacation, how could I say no? At first, it was awesome. I got to hang out with their cat, and there were no little brothers running around irritating me. Quite frankly, it was bliss. Pretty soon, though, it got kind of boring, and so I decided to invite my friends over for a movie marathon. I told them we'd be watching rom-coms, but when they arrived, I surprised them with a bunch of my favorite horror movies. Yes, I'll admit it, I'm a horror movie junkie. I love the thrill I get when I watch something terrifying. Unfortunately, my friends don't share this passion of mine, but whatever, they should grow up a bit and stop being such scaredy cats. That night was so much fun. We watched 2 horror movies, and I kept trying to scare my friends. One of them, Jennifer, kept telling me to stop boasting about how brave I was, and that just made me laugh. I mean, they were just movies after all. It's not like they were real. A few nights later, I was sitting with the cat on my lap watching a series about aliens when the phone rang. I don't really like answering phones, especially if I don't know who's calling, but that night I answered because it was the house phone, and it could have been the family checking up on me. But there was no one there. All I could hear was soft breathing. It was kinda creepy, but I figured it was just someone who dialed the wrong number. But then 10 minutes later, it happened again. And then 5 minutes later, again. This then continued for the next hour, and I won't lie, I was starting to freak out. With every call, the breathing got deeper, and it almost sounded like the person was nearby. Even the cat's hairs were standing on end. The next time the phone rang, I couldn't take it anymore. I just started shouting, saying that if they didn't stop calling me, I'd call the cops. Suddenly, the person on the other end said, "I'm watching you." And then, they just hung up. I started shaking. Like, I could feel my heart pumping so hard in my chest, I thought it might explode. I turned around, and that's when I saw a shadow move across the window. I was terrified. I was too scared to even go next door to my parents. Suddenly, I missed my little brothers. I thought about shouting, but what if the person came in and killed me? I thought about what the victims in the horror movies I loved so much did, and that's when I decided there was nothing else for it. I'd lock myself in the bathroom. I ran as fast as I could down the hall to the bathroom, and once I'd locked the door, I fell onto the floor and started crying. That's when I heard footsteps on the stairs above my head. I was so scared I thought I'd puke. What could I do? I didn't have my cell phone with me, and the window was too small for me to climb out of. I couldn't stop crying. And then I heard something truly horrible. The door handle behind my head was being twisted. The person was literally right behind me, trying to get into the bathroom. Well, I just started screaming. My life was over. This was the stuff of horror movies, not real life. I was screaming so much, it took me a while before I heard laughter. I stopped screaming, and then a familiar voice said, "Open the door." I was reluctant to do it, but then I realized who it was. I opened the door, and standing there on the other side were my friends. And they'd filmed it all, including my face as I opened the door, which they later told me was as white as a ghost's. Well, I could have killed them. How could they do this to me? They told me they had decided to get revenge on me because I'd teased them so much about how afraid they were of horror movies, and they thought they'd just see how brave I really was. I couldn't believe they'd do something so messed up. But even I had to admit that it had been pretty terrifying, and that if I'd been watching this in a movie, I'd have been on the edge of my seat. I forgave them, because They really didn't mean any harm, although it could have gone so wrong. Anyway, I realized it's not a good thing to be so boastful, and it's not kind to tease my friends like that. Somehow, horror movies just aren't the same anymore. I definitely don't enjoy it when real life is frightening. That was too much. I think I'll stick to rom-coms from now on.